Hi, everybody, and welcome to Good Vibes FC. I'm Sam Lewis. I'm coming to you from Vermont, where apparently the Northern Lights were visible the other day. Did you hear about that, Becky?
I did hear about it, but did you see the Northern Lights?
No, I was in Boston with my family for Mother's Day, so I missed the whole shebang.
Oh, but that's lovely that you were there for Mother's Day.
I know, it was so nice. We'll get to that. I cut you off. You do your introduction now.
Okay. I'm Becky Sovereign. I am coming from Portland, Oregon. It is once again very early. I love you, Sam. I love this podcast, the sacrifices that I make. And I just had a lovely weekend. We had a win against Seattle. My club coaches were in town from St. Louis. So like people that I've known for 25 years getting to watch me play soccer at a rivalry match. So it was a really great weekend.
Oh, that is so nice. I know, Becky, we keep getting you up early to do this, and I really appreciate that from you because I know you love to sleep.
Oh, do I ever? And I slept so bad last night. It's getting hot here, and I don't have air conditioning in this house, and it can be brutal sometimes.
Oh my gosh, it's getting hot. That is a little bit of foreshadowing for this episode. Okay, I went to Boston for Mother's Day. I got to spend Sunday with a little time with my mother-in-law, a little time with my mom. I had a lovely little afternoon. My husband, made us chicken thigh sandwiches on toasted English muffins for dinner, a nice early Mother's Day dinner in my parents' backyard. It was really nice. And also my other big news is that Pat and I got e-bikes.
E-bikes? Oh, you know Klingenberg has one of those? She just tools around Portland and is just like, I don't even have to pedal.
They're so fun. Like, I love biking, like for exercise too, but it's like fun. Like I feel like a little kid with a toy, and it's just this like very adult motorized bike. It's so sick.
Wait, so it's not like a tandem e-bike?
No, it's just like I have like my own e-bike, but Pat and I rode them like 6 or 7 miles and went out to breakfast and rode back. And you do have to pedal, but it just really like zooms you along, and it's like so fun. I highly recommend.
I scarily not very good at riding bikes. Like I like doing it, but in Portland, it's taken so seriously. I don't feel adequate biking around Portland.
I know exactly how you feel when you're around people who are like commute cycling and you're just like out there playing. It's like you're like not really welcome there. It's like trying to surf in Hawaii with the real surfers, and they're like, "Can you get out of our way?"
Highly frowned upon.
Wait, tell me a little bit more about your club coaches being in Portland. Did they come for your game, and then did you get to like catch up with them?
They said they just wanted to come visit me, but I'm also like, well, you're also here for one of the best matches of the season.
Convenient, you guys.
Yeah. They were my club coaches. Met JB Marine from like age 14 to 18. And they're such like a sweet couple. Like this is how wholesome it is. When we won state for the first time, that's when he proposed to her. Like literally after the match when we're all getting our little medals.
Oh.
Yeah. So just like wonderful, wonderful coaches and people that like were so important to me growing up, almost like a second set of parents watching out for me and just wanting the best for me. So having them out here, we grabbed a couple meals. They got to play some golf, did a couple hikes, got to hang out with Zola on game day. And so it was just like a really cool experience of having him here.
Oh, that's so nice. How was the weather in Portland?
It was hot. It's not rainy and gloomy anymore. It was a scorcher. It was like 85 on the field when we were warming up for the match. And, you know, the turf always makes it a little bit hotter. So, I think we're getting into summer.
Man, devastating for Becky. Pretty exciting for me, honestly. I'm desperate for some sunlight on my little face. Okay, speaking of the weather, today on the podcast, Becky and the Thorns win their rivalry game against Seattle while Kansas City and Orlando stay on top of the table. We also have a first-time FA Cup champion. We are going to talk all about Man United's statement win over Tottenham. Plus, we have some fun updates from players around the world, and we have an email from Kyla M. who asks, who President Becky Sauerbrunn would choose as her running mate. It's going to be a really, really good episode, you guys. I'm very excited. Before we get into that, if we were going to heat check this podcast, we're talking weather in Portland. We're going to be talking weather all over the place. We're going to be talking how hot are things. So this podcast, I would say, is like habanero hot. That seems like pretty appropriate.
Very spicy. Very spicy.
Very spicy. Very hot. Very popular, very cool. Okay, let's get into the NWSL. First things first, Becky, we have your big game to talk about. Your Portland Thorns had your big rivals, the Seattle Reign, down to Providence Park in front of over 20,000 people. What is the atmosphere like for a home game like this? Like this big rivalry game, it's a little bit hot out there. You're in Providence Park. You have your amazing fans cheering for you. Does it always feel like this? Like, what's the atmosphere like?
I mean, the atmosphere is always amazing. There's something about Seattle, though. It is like electric. I mean, if it had to be like, this is like, ooh, what's hotter than habanero? This is like
ghost pepper.
Pickled jalapenos. Ghost pepper. That's excellent. Yeah, like the hottest of hot. Everything just gets turned up just a little bit. And man, like 20,000 plus, the fans were amazing. The energy was amazing. And yeah, it was amazing to play.
Oh, that is so cool. Okay, so you end up winning 4-0, but the game was a lot closer than that for most of the game. First, Sophia Smith set up Olivia Moultrie beautifully. She kind of like got in on goal and slotted this like great pass back for Olivia to finish this kind of looping far post way out of the goalkeeper's reach. A really skillful finish. You guys go up 1-0. How did you feel?
Oh, I mean, I had a perfect view of it and I was like, surely that's not going in. And it was just like beautiful, almost upper 90, definitely side netting. Yeah. But Liv is such a technical player that like when she does finishing, like she does practice these kinds of shots. So I'm not surprised that it happened. But to do it in the run of play against Seattle at that time, like huge.
A huge moment. I know. That's so exciting for Olivia Moultrie. Again, such a young player who's gaining experience every year she's playing in this league and now for the national team. And to have a big moment in a big game like that, I feel like is so exciting and indicative of maybe what's to come for her this year. So a bunch of the game goes by, and then like way late in the game, a handball gets called on Sofia Huerta, Seattle defender, in the box for a penalty kick. So Peyton Linehan was one-on-one with Sofia Huerta in the box and takes a shot. Soph blocks it with her foot, but it just kind of ricochets up and hits off her own hand. Then play continued. A few minutes later, the ref blows the whistle, goes to the VAR box to review it, and eventually then calls it a PK. But there was lots of drama around this call, and maybe rightly so. Jess Fishlock was clearly unhappy with the decision. She was on Twitter after the game, and as reported by the Seattle Times, Jess commented, "I for sure want to know what the penalty rule is. Up until that moment, we were super comfortable with what we were doing, but stopped doing the game plan and all hell broke loose," which really is what happened. Once you guys went up on the penalty kick, Seattle did fall out of the game. In this moment, Becky, did you know the rule? Did you have a clear view of what happened? Like, what were you thinking as this happened and as the ref was going to the VAR review?
Well, like oddly enough, maybe 5 minutes before that, I had a similar thing happen where I tried to clear a ball and it went up and hit my hand in the box and we just kept playing. And so I was like, okay, I think I'm okay because I made an attempt to clear the ball. I cleared it into my own hand.
Yeah.
And he didn't even, we didn't stop to review or anything. And I was like, okay, like that's fine because it's not really a handball. That's the rule, is that if it deflects off your foot as you're trying to attempt to play and it hits your hand, it's not a handball. And so when that happened to Soph Huerta, I was kind of like, I can't believe he was reviewing this. And then the fact that it took like 12 minutes, I'm like, what? He's still reviewing it. It's probably not clear and obvious. I almost think like because he didn't call mine, he probably shouldn't call Soph's, like kind of like even it out for everybody. But the rule really kind of states that should not have been a penalty.
Well, exactly. So I researched this rule. I'm like typing away like NWSL handball rules, like trying to find the facts about it. But something you said I want to go back to. Do you feel like consistency in refereeing is one of the most important things? Like if you're not going to make a call one way, you have to be consistent and not make the same call the other way? Or is there more factors than that to it?
No, I think consistency is huge. I think like the degree of fouls, like what qualifies as a yellow card, what just qualifies as like just a regular foul. Like I think consistency is so important. I think a referee, a referee has done a good job if you don't even realize they're on the field at all.
Right.
And so I think like when you start getting calls going more one way or the other, like then they're starting to play more of a role in this game and you're like, this is not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so again, I'm researching away. Rules, handball rules, what rules are we following? According to IFAB, which is the International Football Association Board, kicking or heading the ball into your own arm is not considered a handball unless the ball goes directly into the opposing team's goal or the player scores immediately after. So like you said, Becky, they reviewed for 5 minutes, award the PK. Your team went on to score the PK thanks to Sophia Smith, and with this goal, she became the youngest player to score 40 goals in the NWSL. Then you guys saw 2 more goals go in extra time, making the game really out of reach for Seattle, despite what was a competitive game most of the time before that. So I guess my question is, to me, it sounds like there is some confusion about the rule here and some subjectivity of the ref's decision to call this a handball and a penalty kick. Do these things all shake out in the end? Like missed calls and rule confusion, does it even out, or was this wrong?
That's tough. Like I like to think like you're going to get some calls and then you're not going to get some calls. So at the end of the season, like it is what it is. And if you deserve to win a game, like score more than 1 goal. Like don't make it tight where a bad bounce of the ball is going to cost you points. So I think it does even out in the end. Somehow, I think the soccer gods kind of smile down and they're like, all right, we'll give you this one today.
Well, that's fair enough. Congratulations on the win. Portland Thorns, your team is flying, Becky. You now have 16 points. You're in 4th place. Such a great turnaround from 3 or 4 weeks ago when you and I were kind of discussing what's going on, what needs to change. So I'm really happy for you guys. How do you feel about where you're at? Can you heat check us? The Portland Thorns rise to 4th?
Yeah, give me something with like a slow burn, because it's like we really did not start off great. And so we're just kind of building momentum. I'm just hoping that like one of these days it's just going to be like the spiciest thing ever. But right now it's like a slow burn thing.
I like that. Portland Thorns on a slow burn. I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, around the rest of the league, Kansas City got their first shutout of this season in their Wednesday night game, tying Seattle 0-0. Then they went on to get another shutout this weekend in a 1-0 win over North Carolina. Debinya's back scoring goals for Kansas City. It's a very scary thought.
Super scary.
They've been so dangerous offensively, and now with this newfound ability to get shutouts, Kansas City is like terrifying. I feel like all we've been saying all along is like, Kansas City wins 5-4. Kansas City wins 3-2. Kansas City wins 10-1. It's been, their just offensive prowess has been so impressive. Becky, once a team like Kansas City, who are such an offensive superpower, kind of shore things up at the back like they have been, where is the Achilles heel? Or is focusing on stepping up their defense going to kind of tamp back their offensive prowess?
That's an interesting question. I think one thing kind of does have to give. If you're going to prioritize defending, like you're just not going to send as many numbers forward. And I think that's what Kansas City did a lot of early, where they were just direct. They were letting players run onto the ball in behind. They were using Bia quite a bit to like link up play with Chwinga. So I think, if you prioritize defending, you do lose a little bit. If they can find a way to kind of even that out, like that is a very terrifying thought. But Flacco's such a defensive-minded coach that I think the fact that they've given up so many goals probably really bothers him. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they start focusing a little bit on that more.
Okay, Becky, speaking of Kansas City, we need to heat check them. I'm kind of feeling like they're kind of like a Florida heat. I know they're in Kansas City, but a very tropical, I'm thinking palm trees. I'm thinking the wind is blowing and they're kind of like chilling in the sun.
Interesting. I would say, have you ever been in Kansas City during the summer? You've played there. You know how hot and humid it can be. Kansas City just might be Kansas City in the summer.
Just a Kansas City heat, just hot heat.
Exactly. Hot, humid heat.
All right, Kansas City, it sounds like you guys are a hot heat. You heard it from Becky. Sadly, though, for North Carolina, who Kansas City beat this past weekend, they've had a tough run of games. They've now lost 3 in a row, and they haven't won on the road yet this season. Becky, I feel like your team, the Portland Thorns, you have your own fortress at home. North Carolina is kind of known for having that same fortress and winning mentality when they're home, but they're struggling on the road. What kind of challenges do you think might be getting in their way while they're traveling right now?
It could be a number of things. I think in North Carolina, you're obviously traveling like huge distances to get anywhere around the country, especially when you get to the West Coast. And I know for the Thorns, we only won, I think, 2 games on the road last year. And it becomes almost this like mental, like, what's wrong with us? Why can't we, why aren't our legs turning over as much? Like, is it the food at the hotels? Like, you just kind of like try to find reasoning and you're like, no, it's all in us. Like we can figure this out. We don't need to find excuses. And so it's just figuring out what works for them. And so I'm kind of surprised. I do think North Carolina put up a really good showing against Kansas City. I thought they defended really well. I thought they had some really good chances. So it was like a close thing. It's not like they're getting blown out by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. I agree. I think they were defending really well. They're kind of disciplined in defending Kansas City's incredible attacking power, including Temwa Chawinga. I think they were really methodical in how they were doing that. But I agree with you. On the road is hard. Like, there are so many additional factors out of your control when you're on the road. What if it's noisy at the hotel or your pillow sucks? What if you usually get this meal from Whole Foods every time and there's no Whole Foods nearby? What if the bus ride to the game takes longer than normal? Like, there's just so many factors that you can't control. So I feel like getting out of your rhythm or routine is so much easier, and you have to kind of have that adaptability. Do you personally struggle on the road at all, or do you just find because you've had such a long career of traveling that you can kind of get used to anything?
I think because I started traveling with the youth national teams pretty early and then going around the world with the senior team, I think I've just gotten so used to just being on the road that honestly, any hotel room can feel like my room at my house. Like, get me in there for 30 minutes and it looks like I've lived there for 2 years.
You have your whole like bookshelf lined up behind you and a cup of tea by the bed.
Exactly. A little lavender spray for my pillow.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Well, so I'm so sorry to do this to you, North Carolina, but I feel like you guys are kind of like a little bit of a damp heat right now.
Just on the road.
You're just on the road. As soon as you get back home, it's going to be hot caliente. I know it. Okay, at the weekend, Houston stole 3 points versus Angel City. In the 98th minute, Paige Nielsen scored a last-second goal against Angel City, who just traded her away. And her celebration and facial expression and just pure happiness after scoring that goal was so incredible to see. Becky, what do you think that feels like for Paige?
You know, I don't really know what that would feel like because I've never really scored a goal like that. But her facial expressions and just like the sheer joy on her face, like running to the sideline, like, oh, that must feel so good. So especially against the team that just traded you away. Like, what a way to win a match against your old team.
I know. They say that revenge is a dish best served cold. Do I have that right?
That sounds lovely, but I think it should be served hot this week.
I think you're right. I feel like Paige Nielsen's heat check is like a hot wing, just a spicy.
Or how about the sun?
The sun.
The sun. She is, yeah. It is just the
surface of the sun.
Exactly.
That was really fun to watch that. A few other quick things to note. After scoring this Wednesday in their 1-0 victory over Houston, Lynn Williams, you guys might know her from her side hustle as a podcast host. Lynn Williams is now tied with Sam Kerr for the most NWSL goals at 78 goals. Christine Sinclair is just 2 behind on 76 goals. Lynn Williams' heat check, piping hot. Thermometer's broken. Mercury's exploding out of the thermometer. She's breaking shit out here. It's Lynn Williams, everybody.
Can we just talk about that? 78 goals is so many goals.
It's so many goals.
It's hard for me to fathom as someone who's probably only scored 4 in her career, but that is so many. Like, she is remarkable. She's like just such a winner.
I freaking know. Lynn Williams just finds a way to get it in the back of the net, finds a way to win. So proud of her, and we're going to make a way bigger deal about this once she scores one more goal and she actually breaks the record. We're going to have balloons and birthday cake and everything. So congratulations to Lynn. Stay tuned for her to break the record. It's probably going to happen in her next game. Ella Stevens also scored a really great goal for Gotham against San Diego, an absolute laser show. And Gotham drew their first ever point against the Wave. So Gotham needs a heat check here too.
Ooh, I don't know. What do you got for me, Sammy?
I feel like it's like when the oven is on, but it's like, it's not that hot yet, but you're still kind of like, ah.
Gotcha. I like that a lot.
You know what I mean? It's just heating up. It's just it's in preheat mode.
Love it.
They're just coming up to temp. Sad news for the Wave and the U.S. Women's National Team was that Jaden Shaw came off injured in that San Diego game, so we're hoping that she's okay. We're also hoping that Alyssa Nair is okay. She got injured in Chicago's 3-1 win over Utah. It looked like she maybe tweaked her thigh. She attempted to keep playing, but she couldn't and then eventually got subbed off. So neither one of those injury updates is what we want to be hearing about so close to the Olympics. And just in general, we hope that Jaden and Alyssa are both okay. The Croy Bethune show is continuing. She scored an awesome goal off of a volley from an Andy Sullivan corner kick in their game against Louisville. I feel like Croy Bethune needs her own heat check. Absolute straight fire.
I mean, great. I think that works. I agree wholeheartedly.
You're like, yeah, I can't really argue with that one. And then Savannah DeMello's free kick in that Louisville game, they did end up losing that. But it was an incredible free kick from Savannah DeMello. We need a little heat check for her. I don't know why I'm doing this. If you're listening to this, yeah. Fireworks. What a good one. If you are listening to this, go on YouTube next time because you can see the weird hand movement that I'm doing that looks like fireworks. And this whole episode's available on YouTube. Savannah DeMello's fireworks free kick. I love that. And another quick update. Becky Sauerbrunn actually has 5 career NWSL goals, not 4. Don't get it twisted, Becky. Get your own stats right.
Don't cut myself short, I guess.
Okay, our last NWSL update. Zambian internationals Barbara Banda and Rachel Kundananji had a really nice moment. They took a cute picture together after Orlando beat Bay FC 1-0. We're so excited about these two to continue to rise up through the league, but we did feel like we have to just mention, if you've not seen the news yet, The Guardian reported a few weeks ago that Zambia may be barred from the Olympics this summer with reports of money laundering from the federation. The Guardian reported FIFA threatened the country's football association with suspension amid accusations of money laundering offenses against its president and undue influence by third parties. This would be so devastating. We're not going to dive deep into this right now, but as the story develops, we will certainly keep you posted. But what I can say is that we all obviously want to see Barbara Banda and Rachel Kundananji in the Olympics. Would be really, really sad to lose Zambia from that spot, but hopefully things will work out. Okay, Becky, it's time for the Olipop Gut Check of the Week, brought to you by our best friends at Olipop. Oh my God, we're back with another strawberry vanilla times orange squeeze Olipop. Maggie Mack on Twitter has inspired me with this gut check idea. As a follow-up to our way too early MVP of the season, we're going to do a way too early Rookie of the Year. I think this is so fun. So Maggie Mack tweeted, Rookie of the Year candidates are deep. She suggested Croy Bethune, Raylan Turner, Emma Sears, Hal Hirschfeld, Ali Sentnor, and Ellie Wheeler. Who are we missing? Becky, who would get your vote today for Rookie of the Year?
Ooh, if I had to vote today, I mean, obviously I spoke about her last week. Croy Bethune, I still think is having like such a great showing so far this season. Like, I hope it continues for her. I think as a younger player, having that form maintained throughout an entire season would be super impressive. I would love to see that. But if she continues on like this, I would probably say Croy Bethune.
I totally agree with you. I think Croy Bethune has been incredible, not only scoring her own goals, but setting up goals. Like, yes, she's getting a lot of assists, but she's playing these final balls in to just keep things dangerous, create chances for her team. Another Spirit rookie, Hal Hirschfeld, has been really impressive in her play as well. And I think this is a very extensive list. Maggie Mack, you're doing a great job. I also just wanted to shout out Kennedy Fuller, who's one of these other young kind of youth national team players. She plays for Angel City, and she's been playing a lot and doing really well. And I think that especially with these rookies, giving them more time to grow into the season as they just kind of continue to grow as players and gain experience in this league. Sam, note to self, probably way too early to be doing these Rookie of the Year checks, but I love doing it. And I love that Olipop lets us ask these questions. So that's our Olipop Gut Check of the Week. Make sure you comment below to let us know who you think the way too early Rookie of the Year is and who's going to continue to stand out and push for this. And as always, thank you so much to Olipop. So the FA Cup final was this weekend between Man United and Tottenham. And Man United made history with a statement 4-0 victory. It was their first ever FA Cup victory, which is incredible.
Hold up. I want to know your experiences in an FA Cup final. How big is it to play in one of these? Where did you play?
Yeah.
How did it go? Like, what are your favorite memories?
Yeah, so when I first got to Man City, they were still making up the previous season's FA Cup because COVID had like put pause on it. So I actually only played in like the quarterfinal, semifinal, and final. So it kind of felt like this like surprise playoff run, like right off the bat. It was like honestly some of my very first games there. And making the FA Cup final was, I think I learned the most about the tournament when we made the final because everybody was so excited and honored. We traveled to London to play at Wembley. I learned more about the history. I learned about like how much it means to England football, the FA Cup. Like, it's just this really historic and meaningful tournament. And I feel like as the WSL continues to grow, the history of it continues to grow even more in the women's game. So I was so excited to play in the final. There was obviously nobody at the stadium, unfortunately.
No.
It was at Wembley, which was amazing, but there was no fans because it was COVID. I actually scored a goal. I talked to Alex Greenwood about it on Friendlies a few weeks ago. We just kind of reminisced about the FA Cup final. She assisted me for this goal. We ended up winning. We got to celebrate with some beers in the locker room afterwards. And
oh, yeah.
It was like awesome. It's like one of my favorite trophies because I think it was like such a different experience and one that I had never like thought that much about until I got to Man City. But it's such a big deal in England, and playing at Wembley is such a big deal in England too. I know you've played at Wembley with the national team before.
Yeah, we actually played our gold medal match from the 2012 Olympics at Wembley, and it was, I think, like 80,000. Like, it was packed. We played Japan. We wound up winning 2-1, I believe it was. It was like, and then to get awarded your gold medal on Wembley's grass was just like chef's kiss. It was amazing.
That's like really cool. Do you have that kind of
Yeah, it's a hard word.
I know. Do you have that kind of reverence for any other stadiums? Like, do you have other stadiums on your bucket list that you want to play in?
I would love to play at like the Bernabeu because I love Real Madrid. Emirates would be really cool just because of Arsenal.
I was thinking that for you.
I got to play at Old Trafford, and like, Man U is Zola's team. So he was there and he was like, this is so sick. I got to play at Newcastle. I thought that was really great. So I've been very fortunate. I've got to play at some pretty baller stadiums, but I would also love to play at Azteca. I think that would be sick too. Scary, but sick.
Yeah, very sick. Well, this game at Wembley was played in front of 76,000 people. They all got to watch Man United as they cruised to the FA Cup. Tottenham were pretty much outmatched. Despite a strong first half showing, by the time the second half rolled around, the Spurs really just couldn't put up with Man United's fight. Ella Toone scored an absolute laser show. Then there was a Rachel Williams header, and Lucia Garcia had a brace to seal it off. And then Mary Earps, United's goalkeeper, was celebrating like so funnily. She was running around the field, spraying everybody with champagne, just looking like it was an absolute dream come true, which of course it was. Like, winning the FA Cup is a huge deal.
She really celebrates hard because I very distinctly remember watching the Euro Championship presser and her like, and the whole entire team like interrupting the presser, and she was like on the counter with alcohol, like dancing around. I was like, oh, dang. Okay, she parties hard.
I mean, we've talked about this before, but when you win, you gotta go. Like, that's your chance.
Whatever your heart tells you to do.
You just gotta celebrate hard in that moment. So for United, it was a welcome change to what's been kind of a subpar season. Mark Skinner, United's manager, according to the UK media, was like a little bit on the outs, and so maybe this victory will book him another chance next season with the team. Both clubs now have one more chance to kind of make their voices heard because this week they both are playing WSL matchups with inbound U.S. Women's National Team coach Emma Hayes and her Chelsea side, who are hoping to pull out a last gasp title. Chelsea have 2 matches left. The first one is on Wednesday at 2:15 p.m. against Tottenham. The Spurs, again, are coming off this kind of bitter loss in the FA Cup final, so they're going to have a chip on their shoulder and definitely something to prove and something to play for sure. But if Chelsea are successful and hold on to their 1 goal in differential over City, it will all come down to the WSL's last day, Saturday, May 18th at 10 a.m. This is the end of the road for this season of the WSL. Man United, FA Cup winners, will host Emma Hayes' last game as Chelsea manager. Meanwhile, Man City will take on 7th place Aston Villa.
You cannot write this stuff. This is like amazing script writing right here. Like, how is this coming down to the wire?
I don't know. It's like, should be a documentary.
It really should. It really should.
It's honestly like so, when like the TV channels who have it are like pumped because like they're just rooting for it to be like a nail biter so that more people tune in. Like, I feel like that's what's happening. Is that like the powers that be, how they'll say like the NBA finals are rigged so it goes to game 7? Like, this is what I feel like is happening here.
That there's just like somebody behind the scenes that's just like twiddling their like fingers like, yes,
we're doing this
exactly
on
what
purpose.
we wanted.
I know, literally. So whoever comes out with 3 points and the goal differential would be the winner. All of these WSL games on the last day are played at the exact same time, Becky. So there are massive stakes here for NWSL fans who see us have this playoff format each year. I'm wondering what you think is a better ending to the season. Like, does the race for the Shield feel like this does?
Oh, that's such a great question. And if only I had experienced it where you just had the shield and that was the end of the season. But because we have this like playoff format, I hate to say this, but it almost feels like winning the playoffs afterwards feels more powerful than winning a shield. And I don't want to say that, but if I'm being really honest with myself, that's how I feel. What about you?
I agree. I mean, I think in my like football brain theory, there's a world in which winning the shield is more impressive because it's a sign of consistency and being great in every game all season long. Whereas the championship can just be a good run of form at the end. But there's just something in my like competitive or like, I don't know, some side of me that's like playoffs are the best. Like they're so fun to watch. The do or die nature of them is like just so competitive and it like adds this element of like desperation.
Yeah, and I think also the way that we like create events around it. Like you have the championship weekend where you go in early and there's all this media and all the events and stuff. And so I know, I agree with you. I think it is more impressive to win a shield, but there's just something about winning a championship.
I know. It's like the Super Bowl.
Yes, exactly.
But like better because it's women's soccer, obviously. Bigger and better. So, Chelsea, Man City. I mean, there's still a few wild things that could play out, and I'm sure they will. Like, I am expecting the most things possible to happen in these last couple of days of the season. But Becky, putting your money on this. Chelsea, Man City.
Oh, I don't like answering these questions, Sammy.
I know.
I'm going to go with Chelsea. You got to finish the story.
I love that. I really like that. I'm just going to oppose you here. I'm going to go Man City. It's my old team. I think they are in like a little bit. I don't know if they're in a position of power. I don't know. It's like literally so complicated. But I guess I'll say I'm rooting for Man City just to give us some variation here in this conversation.
We can bet on some Olipop or something.
I would love that. I would love to bet some Olipop. It's time now for some fun updates from some players from around the world. So Ella Toone from Man United and Alessia Russo from Arsenal have started a podcast together. They're like best friends on the Lionesses. They were teammates for a really long time on Man United, and they've just started the show together. It's so fun and whimsical, and it's a really good insight into their like friendship and personalities. It's called The Tooney and Russo Show, and I've been watching the first couple of episodes on YouTube.
Do you know them at all? Like, I've seen a little bit, and they seem like hilarious people that I would love to know, but
they're like so funny. I guess I feel like I know them, but I really don't at all. Ella Toone plays for Manchester United. So when I was living in Manchester, I was obviously driving the car on the other side of the road. And I accidentally was like backing out of a parking space and like kind of bonked my car into a pole. And so then I was asking some of my teammates on Man City, like how I should get it fixed. And Ella Toone's dad like has a car company. So he like fixed it for me.
Oh
but
my
like
gosh.
I don't know Ella, but like I just feel like kind of eternally grateful that her dad like helped fix my car. But I do love their show. It's like very, very funny. So I highly recommend it. And then Becky, Ali Riley and Sydney Leroux, obviously both on Angel City, they've also started a show that nobody can really quite describe yet. I want you to listen to this clip.
So welcome to BFFR.
What is this? Like, I'm very confused what the show is. Is it a podcast?
It's like a walking podcast,
Yeah,
but like
it's
a
more than a
living
podcast. Yes.
Like, you're coming with us, you're living with us.
Is it like Ali in LA?
Allie in LA, but Sydney and Allie in the world, everywhere, with
So
you.
it's like a vlog.
Okay. She's doing too much. She's doing too much. It's just BFFR show.
Like,
What does that mean?
It's just
cut.
So that clip was Sid Leroux, Ali Riley, and then their teammate, Alyssa Thompson. And they were trying to explain to her what their new show is. Alyssa seems like she hasn't quite picked up on what the concept is yet, but regardless of what the concept is, I think it's going to be so fun to watch. I'm so excited to see more players out here creating content. And I wanted to talk about this a little bit, Becky. Like, you're a current player, so is Lynn. I just recently retired, but we're out here making kind of player-driven content. And I think we see that as something that can further grow the women's game by bringing fans along and kind of being open about what our life is like. So I just want to ask a little bit, like, why do you think that this is important and can contribute to the growth of the game?
I really think about, like, people fall in love with teams, but I also think people really fall in love with players as well. And I think if you're a good storyteller, you create these connections with the team, with these players that like outlast time. And so I think like what we get to do with our friendships, with the players that we know so well, the things that we've gone through, like being able to tell these little stories so people really feel like they get to know us, I think is so important. I think you just bring fans into the game that it just like it lasts a lifetime. And I think that's so important for us. And I think for other people that cover the women's game is like you're bringing people to this community and you want them to feel like loved and you want them to be knowledgeable and educated and you want them to care.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think everything you said is so true. It like creates this level of engagement that we're kind of opening up to our fans, opening up what it's like for us and our personalities more. But I also think for us, it's so fun.
Oh, so fun.
Like, I love doing this. I love making this with you and Lynn. I loved on the Friendly Show getting the opportunity to ask players questions that I don't know. All these players have unique experiences. And I think it's this show from Allie and Sid, and then even Ella Toon and Alessia Russo show, it looks so fun to make something and to do something that's not what we usually do every day. That's not just soccer and traveling and going to practice and having team meetings. It's this kind of learning to use this other muscle of telling stories and making content. I think it's really cool and fun.
Oh, so fun. And I think in a way, being a professional athlete, you can seem like the perception is that like you're something distant and untouchable. And this makes us more human and relatable. And I know that I've always wanted to like show that human element. And to me, it's like so much more important than the soccer element. And so I also adore doing this podcast because I just love being able to tell stories with you.
I know. It's the best. Okay, well, good luck to these other new shows. We highly recommend them. It's been so fun to chat a little bit about what this is like. But coming up this weekend, we have the Thorns heading to Texas to take on the Dash. It's going to be hot, Becky. It says it's going to be 90 degrees, so we need to heat check the weather.
I mean, it's going to be Houston hot. Just like it was Kansas City hot. It's going to be Houston hot. I'm going to start drinking electrolytes now.
Yeah, you should. You should. Start drinking extra Olipop, extra electrolytes. It's going to be like having a heated blanket on you in the heat.
Yeah, like in my house that has no air conditioning.
It sounds terrible. So drink up. All the additional extra time that's being given in the NWSL, and honestly, like in the game now with like kind of this rule change, VAR checks, all this added time's getting out on. We're seeing like extra 9 minutes, extra 11 minutes. Some matches have upwards of 20 minutes of stoppage time. Doing that in this heat now with this weather starting up in America, it's going to be really hard. Is this something you and your team is thinking about at all yet?
Oh, for sure. And I think especially when it gets so hot that you're also then going to have water breaks. So you're just adding even more time to the end of matches.
Yeah.
And so I think you just have to be so strategic. I think high performance, they just need to be like ready with the ice towels and drinks around the field.
Yeah.
And like anytime you get a chance to just take a sip, just take care of yourself a little bit. Like you just got to use some strategery.
I like kind of have this theory. I've talked about this before, but when I played at Man City, the weather was a lot cooler than what I was used to playing games in the NWSL over the summer. And I all of a sudden was like, oh, I understand why games are 90 minutes long, because here, where the game was like kind of originated, you can play well for 90 minutes. Whereas in the NWSL, I have always felt like it's like a torturous exercise to try to play in the heat for 90 minutes. So I just like, I don't know. I have this theory and it's terrible, but like as it continues getting hotter, I don't know what we're going to do. Like the world is going to get hotter. Like,
Are you suggesting that we
shorten the games?
don't do 90 minutes? Ew.
I like
no.
didn't really want to say that because I don't really think that that's my theory. But my theory is just more that the climate is so indicative of what it feels like to play the game for that long. So I don't really know where to go from there.
Maybe don't put our games at 4:00 on a Sunday afternoon in Houston.
That is a good place to start. Baby steps. I'm like, let's just make the games 40 minutes long. Everybody's like, Sam, what? Okay, here's an appropriately timed game. 7:30 p.m. on Saturday, Washington will play Angel City. This will be a really fun battle for a Saturday night. Can Croy Bethune keep Croy Bethune-ing? I sure hope so. Then Gotham will host Chicago on Sunday at 5 p.m. We will really hope, cross all of our fingers, all of our toes, to see Alyssa back in net. But we will also hope for Lynn Williams to break the NWSL all-time scoring record. And if and when she does, I'm going to make cupcakes for myself and then eat them at my own house.
What kind of cupcakes?
Funfetti.
Obviously.
Obviously. And as we said, it is the last day of the WSL on Saturday at 10 a.m. So depending on what happens in Chelsea's game on Wednesday, the title race might come down to the very last day of the season on which all teams play their final game at the exact same time. I literally can't wait. Let's go to the inbox. We got an email. I'm very excited for this from Kyla M. that asks, I don't want to speak for all U.S. women's national team fans, but I'm going to anyway. Thank God, Kyla. We need somebody to. I firmly believe that collectively we would choose Becky if we had to pick a presidential candidate, obviously. What I want to know is, who would Becky choose as her running mate? The obvious caveat, it has to be one of her U.S. women's national team teammates, past or present.
Great question. Also, thank you so much for thinking that I should be the president. Like, oh my gosh. The obvious, I think people would be like, oh, she's going to choose Megan Rapinoe. And most of the time, yes, that's a fair thing to say. I'm going to change it up, though, because I think I need to get the youth vote. So I would bring in Naomi Girma as my running mate. She is like such a remarkable woman. As you know, it is Mental Health Month, and Naomi helped put on this mental health retreat that a couple NWSL players from each team went to earlier this year in San Diego, and paired up with Common Goal to have this mental health retreat. And honestly, Sammy, like, it was like life-changing. And you just bring these random players in. We didn't really know each other that well. It was like different ages, different professional experiences, different lived experiences. And you just like, you talk about life, you talk about values, about living your values, you talk about grief, all these other emotions that you have as a human, but also as an athlete. And I feel like I got to learn more, and I'm so close to these players from like 4 days of this retreat than with people that I've played with for like 20 years. Like, that's how powerful it was. And Naomi through the whole thing was just like so strong and like modeling vulnerability and so powerful. And like the fact that she was able to put this whole thing together with Common Goal and to basically like kind of host it for us, I was like, this woman is remarkable, and I would be honored if I'll be her running mate. Like, she can go ahead and be president, honestly.
I was going to say, that's like presidential candidacy on Naomi's part, like her setting all of that up.
Exactly.
That's her ticket.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was a truly remarkable experience, and she's a truly remarkable woman.
Wow, Naomi, that is like the highest praise I can ever imagine getting from Becky Sauerbrunn. That was so wonderful, Becky. Thank you for sharing all of that. So it sounds like if Becky Sauerbrunn, Naomi Girma is an option, I think you've got the entire NWSL women's soccer community voting for you guys whenever that comes to fruition someday. Don't forget, you can write us with questions. You can email us at womensgamemib@menandblazers.com, and we might just choose it and read it on the show and ask Becky Sauerbrunn anything that you want to know. Sadly, this is bringing us to the end of the episode. I am going to miss you. I'm going to miss everybody. But before we go, we always leave our listeners with a good vibe. So, Becky, what is your good vibe to share with our listeners today?
This past Wednesday, there was a showing at one of the cinemas here in Portland, and it was called Copa 71. And it was basically the first kind of unofficial Women's World Cup. Like, FIFA decided not to recognize it, but it was held in Mexico, and it was a smaller tournament, little known, like not many people know about it. And they had such great footage. They interviewed a bunch of players that played in 71. And for me, it was like such an amazing story that I had never heard. So the good vibe this week for me is like the uncovering of stories that have not been told and allowing that like power to come out into the world.
Oh, that is so cool, Becky. I'm going to look more into that because I would love to know more. The uncovering of stories that have not been told. That's an amazing good vibe.
Thank you, Sam. What's yours?
I really, really love that. My good vibe, since it is just briefly after Mother's Day, is just a little shout out to my mom. I got to see her on Sunday and spend the afternoon with her. My mom is so supportive. She always asks such pertinent questions because she keeps up with everything that I do. Like, she listens to every episode. And so every time I talk to her, she like really knows what's going on, even things I haven't even told her. And I just feel really, really grateful. I know that Mother's Day can be a hard day for a lot of people, and my heart goes out to everybody who had a good day or had a hard day. But my good vibe is just my own mom. I love her so much, and she's such a great lady, and she's a goofball, but I really appreciate her. And I know she's listening to this, so I know that she'll hear it. Okay, that is it for this week's episode of Good Vibes FC. I really hope that you're subscribed to this podcast feed, but if not, subscribe right now, you tiny turducken. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also on YouTube. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Women's Game MIB. Upcoming this week, Becky, we have an interview with Kat Macario, Chelsea and U.S. Women's National Team midfielder, attacker, forward, 9 extraordinaire. And I'm going to ask her all about Chelsea's title race, her journey back from injury, and her hopes for this summer's Olympics with the U.S. Women's National Team. I'm really excited to speak with her and for everybody to hear the interview.
For sure. I'm definitely tuning in for that one.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
I'm Becky.
And I'm Sam Lewis, and this is Good Vibes FC, the podcast that's so hot right now.
Too hot to handle.
I'm actually literally sweating and so hot. So that's that.
Goodbye.
All right. Love you guys. Bye.